There's all kinds of good ones. All right. Anyway, we want to talk more about ways in which we try to affect policy. Publicity through mass media, television, radio, and of course the internet now are super useful. All right. And the bulk of those advertisements, they can be expensive if you put it on television, and that's the downside, but they are effective. Second thing we want to mention here, groups will send out mass mailers. Okay. Mass mailers, stuff like these. I have a large collection of mass mailers, and for you at home, I'll show you these when you get back. But you can see there's tons of these mailers, and they're in a variety of shapes, sizes, colors, etc. When you send out a mass mailer, what do most people end up doing with this stuff? Throw it away. But before you can throw it away, what do you have to do? You got to look at it. You at least have to pay attention to it. For a while, people thought mass mailers would go away with the advent of email, but emails, like sending out large spam emails, doesn't work because what can people do? Yeah, you can hit delete without even looking at it, or now they even let you put it into a spam folder and it automatically deletes itself after so many days. Tech. Yeah, and you can start doing that so you can identify things that are spam. But take a look at some of these little flyers here, and I've collected them since like about 2007. This is a great one right here. It's from the National Right to Life Committee, and look, they got a picture of a cute little baby on there. Okay, and it says there's a question for you. Would you vote to deny care and protection to babies born alive after an abortion? Hmm. And Maggie, you had the right question, the right response. Huh? That question doesn't even really make a lot of sense, does it? All right. Would you vote to deny care and protection to babies born alive after an abortion? Now, if you're not aware, sometimes abortions, particularly if they are later in a pregnancy, an abortion can sometimes go wrong. And what happens is you actually induce labor, and a child can actually come out of the birth canal. And once a baby's head leaves the mother's womb there, that baby's technically a person, and you can't do anything. Like, you couldn't go on with the abortion, right? However, states had laws saying you didn't have to help that baby that was born after a botched abortion. Okay, and a lot of states started changing their laws requiring that if you botched an abortion and a baby was born as a result, you have to give life-saving measures to that child. All right. Well, whatever that was that happened in Illinois, Barack Obama voted against it 4 times. He's not going to give life-saving measures to a baby born after an abortion. Then on the back, it's got this clever little thing here. You got John McCain and Sarah Palin on one side, and Obama and Biden, and they don't have little bullet points for McCain and Palin. It's little hearts instead of bullet points. They got a Bible verse on there, which is misused. I set before you life and death. Choose life then, that you and your descendants may live. Aw. By the way, do they know their audience? Absolutely. You don't put that Bible verse on there for no reason. Okay. That little ad setup's so good that here's one that came out a couple years later in a midterm election for Congress here in West Virginia. Elliot Spike Maynard and Nick Rahal are the two candidates. And it says in bigger letters, I set before you life and death. And on the left, that candidate's the life candidate, Spike Maynard. On the right, Nick Rahal, that's the death candidate. Gets better, man. All right. Oh, by the way, I like this too. It says, this election, life is on the line. Do you all know when you go to like a store like Walmart or Kroger, uh, what do they do now? What are some of the restrictions they put on you when you try to buy like Sudafed or cold medicine? You can only buy so much because people are using it to make meth. All right. And when they decided to make this law in West Virginia that you can only buy like I think 2 boxes of cold medicine at a time, uh, a guy named Dale Anderson questioned that and he said, "Look, I don't think that's necessarily the best idea." And so his opponents, groups that didn't like Dale Anderson, made a great flyer that says, Meth cooks for Dale Anderson. And they got this janky looking guy with blue skin, a shamrock tattoo, hairy armpits. And they're like, hey, we like Dale Anderson because he's going to make it easier for us to do our job of cooking meth. Right? And if that wasn't enough, Dale Anderson, Breaking Bad. And he's gone soft on meth dealers. That's good stuff. Okay. This one, look at this. When they needed him most, you have a picture of a veteran here and his little boy. When they needed him the most, he turned his back on them. Don't vote for Nick Rahal. He turned his back on all of us. Ooh. And apparently, Nick Rahal, he it says the government promised veterans health care but gave them neglect, disrespect, and lies. Do veterans have health care? Yeah, they do. They have health insurance plans. All right. But maybe not the ones that this group wanted them to have. By the way, this is from Americans for Prosperity. Here's a good one. West Virginia workers, right? Your choice is clear. You got Jim Justice over here. You see him, he's on a farm and he's all looking great. And opposite him, they don't even put a picture of his opponent, Bill Cole. They just put his name, a circle with a line through it, and flames around it. I mean, look, and on the back it says, shame on Bill Cole and Armstead for putting politics above working people. All right. That one's put out by the AFL-CIO, which is a labor union. This one against Richard Ojeda, y'all remember him? He ran for Congress a couple years ago. And it says, people like Richard Ojeda are why NFL players kneel for the national anthem. Wow. And that's pretty, like Colin Kaepernick called up Richard Ojeda and was like, hey, man, should I kneel for this game or not, you know? But strangely enough, people forget this, that Richard Ojeda was a veteran. He did like 3 or 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is my favorite ad of all, okay? Patrick Lucas's spooky healthcare plan may put West Virginians in an early grave. And look, he's got a little West Virginia on a tombstone, meaning if you vote for Patrick Lucas, you're voting for West Virginians to die. And on the back, it tells you 150,000 West Virginians could lose their health insurance. In states that have gone through with Patrick Lucas's plan, as many as 17,000 people who would otherwise receive health insurance will die. That's awful. Look at here. Patrick Morrisey turned his back on West Virginians who rely on Medicare and Social Security. And then look on the back here. You got some really sad looking seniors. Like, those people are going to cry. Man, this is bizarre. So, look, these ads, these little mailers and TV ads, do they tend to go positive or tend to go negative? Negative. Why? Not that. It's much more basic. It's easier to what? It's not easier, but what sticks better, positive or negative? Negative. Think of this. When you do 99 good things, your parents are like, meh. But you do one bad thing, and they never let you hear the end of it. Is that true? Yeah. And that's true. Look, that's true for you guys thinking about your parents, too. How many times do you give them grief over the one bad thing that they do or the one dumb mistake that they made, and you forget about the million good things they've done and how they protected you and provided for you, et cetera, et cetera? Okay? A study showed that it takes at least anywhere from 5 to 7 positive ads to undo the damage from one negative ad. All right. So that's why our like those mass mailers and publicity through TV ads are so darn effective. And that's why they use them, because they are effective. All right. Let's go to our third way that groups try to influence. Groups will try to influence policy through what we call litigation. Okay. That is a fancy word for just using the court system. All right. Using the court system to try to change policy. That's litigation. If you're involved in a court case of any time, that means you're involved in litigation. Okay? Now, let me give you one ridiculous example of how that would work. The year is 2013. Where are you all in 2013? You're like 5th grade, 4th grade, something like that? All right. Now, anyway, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, they file a lawsuit against SeaWorld, claiming that SeaWorld was violating the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which, if you have not forgotten or remembered, the 13th Amendment bans slavery. And SeaWorld's like, what? How are we violating this particular constitutional amendment? And who do you think PETA said that SeaWorld was enslaving? The whales, man. They're like, whales are intelligent creatures, and they are being voluntarily kept against their will. Well, yeah, dolphins are small potatoes compared to the whales. Yeah, and people remember that. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Okay? PETA knows this lawsuit is ridiculous, and they know it's not going to work, that they're going to lose the case. So why did they do it? The media, okay? Look, when the media gets hold of this story, they're going to broadcast this about it. And what you're doing is you're raising awareness. You're magnifying an issue so that everybody sees it, okay? And so maybe Riley is unaware that whales are being held captive by SeaWorld and that they're not exactly what you call the best conditions. Now she's aware. Now she can do something about it. Okay? So litigation can bring awareness to your issue. All right? But not only that, here's the better part of it. All right? By the way, this case does get kicked out and they're like, this is ridiculous. You know, the whales don't deserve constitutional protections. But imagine the crazy scenario for just a minute. Okay? What would happen if the courts actually ruled that, you know what, PETA, you're right. SeaWorld is in violation of the 13th Amendment because whales deserve constitutional protections. What would SeaWorld and every other company like SeaWorld have to do with their whales? What is it? Somebody? Release them. They'd have to let them go. Okay? They'd have to let them go. Even though, do you think most Americans really care that SeaWorld has whales? No. And if it was up to us to vote to whether or not SeaWorld would get to keep their whales or not, I would probably be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Okay? But SeaWorld could get their way if they win that court case. Because the courts are saying, hey, it's our job to just interpret the law, not do what's popular. All right? Now, let me give you a more real example from a court case that you've probably heard of at some point. And I'm sorry, I didn't put this on your outlines, but it's one of our required cases. Brown versus Board of Education. Okay, you've heard of this before, right? All right. What's the issue at stake in Brown versus Board of Education? What is it? Integrating schools. Okay. If you remember, in southern states particularly, but most aspects of life were segregated, including public education programs. All right. And so what happened was people had decided that it was okay to separate people by race as long as you provided equal facilities. All right. The facilities were never the same, and just separating them itself seemed kind of strange in the first place, at least to us now. All right. Now, here's where the controversy comes in with this case. In the 1950s, Linda Brown was a young girl in Topeka, Kansas. And her parents were kind of annoyed because they lived like 3 blocks away from an elementary school, but it was an all-white school. And the school that she had to attend was like a couple miles away from their house. And they were like, this is ridiculous. Okay. We think it's absolutely dumb to have our child walk like a bunch of blocks to get on a bus to take her far away when she could literally walk a less distance and get to the school that actually would provide a better education. Right. So they sued the school system in Topeka, Kansas. Right. And they said, you're violating, by having separate school systems for black children and white children, you're violating our child's 14th Amendment equal protection rights. Okay? You're not giving them equal protection under the laws. Right? And to demonstrate this, one of the things that if you're going to sue anybody, you have to demonstrate that you're damaged somehow or that you've been deprived. Right? And to do this, they brought Linda Brown, this young schoolgirl, to court, and they actually talked to her and other little black children, and they went to Linda Brown and said, we have 2 dolls for you to choose, a black doll and a white doll. Which one do you want? And what do you think she wanted? The white doll. And when they asked her why, what do you think her response was? It's better. She said it's better. And the point that they were trying to demonstrate was, when you separate people by race, our current system is teaching little black children that white is better than black. Right? That even at a very young age, they're aware of it. Okay? And so the Supreme Court looks at this and says, you know what? You're absolutely right. Okay? You're 100% correct. It's a 9-0 verdict, and they're like, your child's 14th Amendment equal protection rights are being violated, and you got to integrate schools. Now, what people forget, though, is that what interest groups supported the Brown family throughout this process? NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. They provided the legal fees and the lawyers for the Brown family. Okay, and they wanted to see this outcome in a court case. All right. Now, it's really helpful because think of it like this. After this, schools are forced to integrate. If you would have had a vote in 1954 in America whether or not Americans wanted to integrate school systems, do you think they would have gone for it? No, they wouldn't have. All right. When you are a group that doesn't have a lot of widespread appeal, using litigation is a great way to affect policy because courts simply look at what's legal and what violates the Constitution. They don't consider whether or not you're a popular group. All right. Think of this. What's another group that has been marginalized for years and won a big freedom in 2015 in a case that we already talked about? The LGBT crowd with same-sex marriage in Obergefell versus Hodges, where the court said, look, we know that if we left this up to the public, maybe they'd decide something different, but that's not what we do here. All right? Ultimately, if you're not somebody that has widespread appeal, then this is a good way to affect policy. Oh, you could change policy through a lawsuit. God, wouldn't that be great? What if you have we had any controversies here at Cabell Midland about free speech issues or what students can say and do? Example, your brother. I think we brought this up before, but if you didn't know, Maggie's brother got a couple of days of in-school suspension for tweeting. What did he tweet? Literally, I hate the band. Because apparently, like the band was trying to practice out on near the football field, and the cross country team was running on the track, and they got in an argument about who was supposed to be out there, and he's just tweeted out later, "I hate the band." We need to change school policy. That is fantastic. Okay, so look, courts or litigation is a great way to shape policy, and we'll pick up with that tomorrow. It's a good place for us to stop there.